Welcome to this episode of Ask the Guitar Coach, the only podcast where you get answers to all your guitar-related questions. If you're interested in developing your guitar skills and reaching your music goals, please send me an email at the email address ioannis@ioannis.org. That is ioannis@ioannis.org, so that I can let you know about all the different packages of elite guitar coaching and how you can get private coaching by me. Without further ado, let's go to our question for the day. So what happens if I stop playing guitar for 1 year? Here's a great question. What happens if you stop playing guitar for 1 year? And I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be surprising to most people. And why is that? Because it really depends on what level you were before this 1 year break. Were you a beginner? Were you early intermediate? Were you fairly advanced or very advanced? It has a very different effect. Now, before I start explaining these things, one thing that's going to be sure is that you're going to lose your calluses on your hands, so on your fingers. You're not going to have calluses anymore. So I will kind of assume, for the sake of simplicity of this answer, that through some magical reason you managed to rebuild your calluses, because if I don't assume that, the answer is going to be very simple, but you're going to play for a couple of hours and then your hands are going to be hurting and then you're going to get blisters, and that's it. That's all. So no matter what, you will have to rebuild your calluses, because this is how you make contact with the instrument, with the strings. But once this is taken care of, let's go and see what are the different, let's say, situations that a guitar player would find himself depending on his pre-existing guitar playing level. So if you were advanced or very advanced, the funny thing is that nothing extreme would happen. Within a couple of weeks of playing again, of starting playing, you could be around 75 to 80% of your previous level. Only the really advanced stuff, or the stuff that were very, very refined and very, let's say, very fast and specific techniques would still give you trouble. But 75 to 80% of your playing would come back in a couple of weeks. You would need to take care, as I mentioned, of your calluses, and also make sure you don't get hurt, because your muscles are going to be not in such a good condition, your finger muscles. But apart from that, most of your playing would come back, as I said, 75-80% within a couple of weeks. Within a couple of months, you would be at around 90, maybe 95%. And at that point, it becomes very difficult to tell the difference with your previous playing, like before the year break and now. And that's pretty much it. If you've been playing for a long time and you're an advanced player, it's not going to be a huge deal. After a few weeks, you're going to be perfectly okay, and in a couple of months, you're going to be back to your regular pre-break level. Let's see now what happens if you're an intermediate. So if you were an intermediate guitar player and you took a 1 year break, what would happen is you would regress to playing only the things that were very, very, very safe for you. Which means if you were before you were playing some heavy metal solos and some advanced rock solos, you would go back to playing the very, very simple rock solos. They would still sound good. It would take a couple of weeks, to just tune your bends again and to be able to make sure that you remember how to do the basic movements. But in a couple of weeks, you would be fine in playing what was safe for you. So, is there a lot of time lost? Well, obviously, apart from the year, I don't think so. Maybe in a month, maybe 1.5 months, you would be back pretty much to where you were before. Once again, not taking into account the time it's going to take to build your calluses again. The important thing to remember is try not to get hurt, because this is always a very big consideration when you're starting from a longer break. It's very easy to strain a tendon, to strain your muscles, so be careful of that, and it shouldn't be a very big deal. You should be fine. So what happens if you were a relative beginner? So you would be playing for a year or so and you had a minimum amount of facility level, let's say, of facility on the instrument. So let's say you were a mid-beginner, let's name that with this particular term. In that case, you would regress to being a total beginner again. Like you would, apart from forming very, very simple chords, you would have trouble doing anything else on the guitar. The difference here being that if it took you 6 months to get to that previous level or 1 year to reach that previous level, you would be able to reach it now in half or 1/3 of the time. So it would take you like 3 months to be back to the 1 year playing mark. Now, once again, this is not an exact science. These are things that I have noticed from people who have taken breaks and had a specific previous level, but more or less this is what happens. So let me recapitulate. If you're advanced, you should be able to reach your previous 80% of your previous playing within a couple of weeks. There is very strong muscle memory, there is very strong mind to hand connection, so it's going to be very, very quick. If you're intermediate, you would revert to playing the very safe things that you knew, like basic chords and maybe a couple of easy rock solos. This would come back quickly, but it would take much more time to reach like your peak level of what it was your peak level before. And if you were a mid-beginner before, you would regress to being a total beginner, but you would relearn much faster, like in double or triple speed than you learned initially. So there you have it. I hope this was helpful and answered the specific question, and I will see you on the next episode of Ask the Guitar Coach. Until then, keep sending me your questions and I will do my best to answer them.